So many of you may have recognized that Jackson Laundry had a breakthrough race at Oceanside 70.3 recently, and there was something crazy about what he was doing.
Wait till you hear this.
He was wearing a sleeveless tri-suit. So most of what we're used to seeing pros wear now are suits with sleeves like this one in front of me, but Jackson was wearing a sleeveless suit, and a lot of people wanted to know why. And so we're gonna dive into that, and as part of that discussion, I'm gonna go through the time capsule and you're gonna take a look at tri-suits from the start of my career to the end of my career. And we're starting with this tri-suit right here from Kickr. The first year that I raced Kona, 2007, this was the kit that I wore right here. It's even got my name on the back in a couple spots. You can see this is a really cool suit. And we'll talk about the materials and kind of how one-piece, two-piece aerodynamics have changed. So we'll start with this suit in front of me, and I actually wore this in 2008. But this suit, again, it's Lycra material, so it's spandex Lycra.
Oh, fancy, fancy.
But this is actually has a heat transfer, vinyl heat transfer on it for printing, for the logo and then the additional logo as well. And so we'll start with that aspect of it. So when we first started triathlons, well, my very first pro race, not Kona, but my very first pro race, I raced in nothing but a brief. It was a DeSoto brief. It was black. It said Iowa in the back because I went to the University of Iowa. It was our Hawkeye suit. That's how it all started. Further on, once you started racing long course, became more important to have a top and a bottom for sun protection. I was always a big fan with long course racing, as most people at the time, to do a top and a bottom, and that's for pit stops. If you have to go to the bathroom, it's much easier to have shorts that can pull down. But we started with garments that were typically screen printed or heat transfer printed on regular spandex. This is an anomaly in that this is sublimated, and let's talk briefly about what sublimation is, because sublimation is what a suit like this uses entirely. So this is a sublimated tri-suit, and a sublimated tri-suit means that you take a white material just like this, you print out a substrate that has ink on it, and it would be the reverse of what you see here. You would print that out, you would lay it on top, and you would put it in a heat press and heat that up to 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 40 to 60 seconds. And during that time, sublimation occurs, and sublimation is the transfer from a solid state to a gas state.
Everybody got that?
This was pre-made and sublimated on top. This is what you call a cut and sew. And so this was sublimated as an entire piece of fabric and then cut out and sewed together. So that's why it doesn't look like there's a white base at all on there. So that's sublimation. Screen print, I got some good screen print on my butt right here. So you can see where it says Tollakson.com. That actually is a silk screen or a screen print, so that was printed on with ink. That's pretty durable. You have to use special ink on spandex because the spandex has to be able to stretch, so it needs a special type of ink. So let's go through some of these suits, but let's pause for a moment and talk about Jackson's decision to go sleeveless. Well, some of you may or may not know Jackson Laundry, Canadian triathlete, big breakthrough race, but he actually had shoulder surgery not too long ago. If I had to guess why, Jackson likes the mobility of the sleeveless tri-suit, especially in the swim, and he didn't want to take the time to put the sleeves on in transition at a half Ironman because the transition time is very, very important. So that's my best assumption on why he did it. It's very difficult for a lot of people to swim with sleeves on their shoulders, especially a lot of natural swimmers hate that feeling.
I hate it. I just hate it.
Any bit of bag or wrinkle in your tri-suit is going to cause excess drag. So the tighter, the better.
Do it like a tiger.
You can see that this is obviously old now, so it's a little bit baggy, but when I raced in it, it wasn't quite so baggy. Over time, fabric deteriorates, okay, so it loses its elasticity just like your skin does, and sublimating the fabric actually accelerates the deterioration. So If you have just this plain suit with no printing, whatever, this fabric actually holds together a lot better than anything that was ever printed on, whether that be screen print, heat press, or sublimation. The problem is this needs about 200 degrees Fahrenheit to apply a heat transfer. The sublimation needs 400 degrees, and a screen print will need like 120 degrees. So in terms of damage to the fabric, screen printing does the least damage, then heat transfer vinyl, and then sublimation does the most damage to the fabric. And so the fancier your tri-suit, like this, the less time it will last. So with that being said, let's go through and take a look. How did we get from here in 2017 to here in 2022? So we'll take a quick look and I'll be back in a second. So this is the tri-suit I wore in 2008. I was second place at Ironman Arizona wearing this exact tri-suit right here. You can see that compared to the other suit, it's a little newer, so it's actually a little bit tighter and more form-fitting, but still you can see like, wow, this is a baggy suit compared to what people are wearing these days. And that's a sign of the times. You'll also notice that most people don't have any pockets in their high-end tri-suits now, maybe one single pocket in the back.
You can put so much stuff in there, you wouldn't even know.
But these have also disappeared. While it was a really cool innovation at the time, they're no longer here. Let's see what's next. So this was Tier's, one of their first tech suits that they had. It used these lines here. It was on the theoretical and applied physics phenomenon of tripwires that were supposed to make you faster. So that's what these are right here. So this is what the tech swimsuit would have been early on. I actually raced short course triathlons in this suit. So around 2007, we started seeing the use of swim skins. So this would be something in a half Ironman or an Ironman that I would have worn over the top of a regular tri-suit, like that two-piece tri-suit, specifically for a non-wetsuit swim, and then peeled it off. It was also fast enough that I would just wear it in a short distance triathlon. And as it turns out, in the wind tunnel, this suit is still very, very fast.
It's pretty fast.
And it's as fast as any one-piece tri-suit today. And because it just has this vinyl heat transfer logos on it, as old as this material is, you can still see it's actually very tight still and very form-fitting, and that's because the fabric was not damaged much by the heat at all. So this is a short course tri-suit that I raced back in 2007. Still ready today. I last raced in this suit. I did the Huntington, Indiana Pro Triathlon in 2020 in this exact suit. So that old. It was still my preferred suit to use for an Olympic distance race. So there you have that. We'll see what's next. All right, so what we have here, this is a huge quantum leap forward in materials for tri-suits. This is a suit that I raced on in 2011. I won my first Ironman in this suit in Lake Placid. And I have a visual for you here. This is crazy to look at, but this was a high school championship swimsuit of mine. This is a paper suit. If you feel this material right here on this paper suit, it's the exact same material. I wouldn't say exact same. It's very similar material to what I'm wearing right now. And what's cool is it's extremely hydrophobic. If you pour water on this suit, it will literally just roll off. In fact, let's do that. Megan's over here. Megan's gonna participate in this. Megan, can you go get a cup of water for us to pour on me? You can see that this has a really low neck in the suit that I had before. It's a very high neck. So Megan, go ahead, just throw that water on me and see what happens here. Go ahead. Oh! But you can see how that water just washes right off. The same thing, some water got on this suit right here. So you can see it's very hydrophobic material and the water just beads off. And so if you get a close-up of this right here, you will see there are literally beads of water on my body right now. So you can see how wonderful of a suit that is for racing in a triathlon and why that would be useful. It's a lot of water Megan threw on me right there. She's been like planning that for like weeks. She's like, I can't wait to throw water on my boss. All right, so there you have it, huge quantum leap forward. This is all vinyl logos that are printed on here, so minimal damage to the suit in terms of temperature change. It is not sublimated, but it's an extremely fast fabric to race in. And we went from this to a straight one piece, and we'll take a look at that. So this tri-suit right here was a huge step forward in technology, okay? So it's still using that same fabric that was on that two-piece suit, but it's a one-piece, and we went a lot higher with the neckline. And so the reason with that is, as you bend over to get in the Aero bars, you want to keep this as tight around your neck as possible, because what would happen is if the neck was too low and too baggy, it would start to flap in the wind and trap a whole bunch of air. And so the higher neck was a lot faster, which is actually really nice about that tier swimsuit. The high neckline was made for that same thing. Is you don't want any water to get stuck down the neck of your suit when you're swimming, and so swimsuits typically have a really tight, and so the same thing when you're riding a bike, air gets trapped in there and it slows you down. So again, okay for training, not the best when you're trying to optimize speed. The other really cool thing about this suit, it has these taped seams right here, right? So there's no stitches where the fabric meets together.
It's not true. That's impossible.
Really cool. You can see how tight and how sleek this is, especially compared to where we were 4 years before this. So 5 years before this. This is a 2012 era suit. It was very fast. This was kind of the norm for quite a while. You can see it held logos really well. It was really tight. It was aerodynamic. It worked really well. It's really interesting with the sleeves because the UCI, the cycling governing body, actually banned sleeveless jerseys from the sport of cycling because they were too aerodynamic. They didn't like the look of them, and people were doing it for cooling and for aerodynamics. Cycling got rid of them. Cycling has since developed sleeves that are faster than sleeveless suits because just like our swimsuits, we have suits that are faster than bare skin. The same holds true for aerodynamics. And so the one-piece suit is actually quite a bit more aerodynamic than a two-piece suit. And as we found out now, having sleeves is actually more aerodynamic. The down part is if you have shoulder restrictions, it's really nice to be able to move your shoulder in a tri-suit that has no sleeves. It's a little more restrictive with the one piece. So take a look at the last one. This is the last one that I put on. This was the suit that I wore in my very last professional triathlon just last summer, June of 2021. This is a Louis Garneau one piece. It does have sleeves, and it was a non-wetsuit swim, so I had a swim skin over the top of this, and I had the suit rolled down and I pulled it up wet, put my arms in it, so my transition time was a little slower than I would have liked, but I also, like I said, I don't like swimming in this, and you can see how tight this is on my shoulders when I'm trying to move. But you can also see what's nice about this is because it's so smooth, there are relatively no wrinkles in this suit, and so it's a nice contoured fit. So this is the future. This is what people are still wearing today, and so a lot of you wondered why Jackson wasn't wearing this.
You want answers? You want answers!
I want the truth!
And most likely it had to do with the fact that he wanted his range of motion in his shoulder, especially after his surgery, and didn't want to lose the time in transition of having to put this on in a relatively short race, being a half Ironman with a transition, and your T1 transition is very important. Losing 20 seconds in that transition can actually cost you the race because the group that you would have been pacing off of is long gone up the road. So let's talk real quick while we have this. I'm going to put the microphone down so it might be a little hard to hear, but this is what it looks like during a race when you have the suit rolled down and how you put it on, which is actually kind of tricky. So you would actually roll this suit into itself like this, and then put a swim skin over the top of this, and then in transition while you were running, you would pull this out, stick your arms in here, and you got to imagine that while you're doing this you would be wet, and it's extremely difficult to do. And so you're going to put both arms in while you're running, stretch it on like this, pull it up, And then while you're running, you're also trying to match this zipper up and pull this up. So you can see it's a difficult process to do, and well, your added time may be somewhere between 10 and 20 seconds in transition for that. In a race like Oceanside, it can be devastating to your actual outcome. There you have it. I hope you enjoyed this look back at tri-suit technology from the beginning of my career to my end, and hopefully I answered some questions some of you had about why Jackson was wearing a sleeveless.